Yes. Kirtan always, japa sometimes. Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, text 19, and then 20 through 23, a couple of paragraphs of the purport, and then we'll carry on from there. Mindfulness, according to Bhagavad Gita, looks like this. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self with a capital S. Purport: a truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. Then the series of 20 through 23. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self, capital S, by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the self, with a capital S again. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. We're reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, text 20 through 23. And then just 3 paragraphs from this long purport. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the supersoul through the transcendental mind and intelligence without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super-self. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of the Patanjali system. Some authorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the super-soul, and the monists think this to be liberation, but they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system, but the monists do not accept this transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and knower is not accepted by the non-dualist, but in this verse, Bhagavad Gita verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted. This is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system, the great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras, Purushartha Shunyanam Gunanam Prati Prasavaha Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtha Va Chitti Shaktir Iti. What does that mean? Next paragraph. This Chitti Shakti, or internal potency, is transcendental. Purushartha means material dharma, artha, kama, moksha, material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. This, quote, oneness with the Supreme is called kaivalya by the monist, but according to Patanjali, this kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affairs is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. This, quote, clearance is actually liberation, or Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, the theory of nirvana. Also, preliminary corresponds with this principle. In the Bhagavatam 2.10.6, this is called Swarupena Vyavastati. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this situation in this verse. One more paragraph. There's more after that. After nirvana, or material cessation, there is the manifestation of spiritual activities, or devotional service to the Lord, known as Krishna consciousness. In the words of the Bhagavatam, Swarupena Vyavastati, this is the, quote, real life of the living entity. Maya, or illusion, is the condition of spiritual life contaminated by material infection. Liberation from this material infection does not mean destruction of the original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also accepts this by his words, Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtha Va Chitti Shaktir Iti. Chitti Shakti, or transcendental pleasure, is real life. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra as Anandamayo Vyasat. This natural transcendental pleasure is the ultimate goal of yoga and is easily achieved by execution of devotional service, or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga will be vividly described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And it goes on. More paragraphs. So we've all been introduced to Krishna consciousness, and we're not the International Society for Introducing People to Krishna Consciousness. We're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So this is, it's 201 class tonight. Because we're already chanting, and this verse is speaking about samadhi. That's in the Eightfold Yoga System, is the topmost, dhyana dharana samadhi. It's a goal. It's something that Prabhupada said on a number of occasions. When you clearly identify a goal, it's very easy to take steps towards reaching the goal. So we're identifying the goal. It's samadhi, or I attempted, I think I did a poor job, attempted to discuss that series of verses from Canto 1, Chapter 2 that end with the same, where one sees the self by the process of bhakti. That's what is being said here in this Bhagavad Gita purport. The previous verse, text 19, is where the mind is steady, like a flame or lamp where there's no wind. And in that stage of samadhi, these texts are saying one can see the self. You see the supersoul. No, it's not like instantly when I discussed this. The rising of the sun is gradual. In the dark of night, you don't see the sun. But before you see the sun, you see the dawn. And then on the horizon, if you don't have buildings and trees in the way, you can see the little bit of the sun that's popping over the horizon. And it's a bright orange, and it's really big, and so then the illumination becomes brighter, 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 until it's the full sun and then midday sun. It's gradual. With chanting, similarly, there's the stage of abhas, which is like the dawn before the sun rises. That's what we're doing. And then you can start gradually, you can start to see the sun, which is what's being indicated here, where after, I'm just breaking down now the 3 paragraphs that we read. After this material cessation, that the darkness is dispelled by the rising of the sun, that's this. Prabhupada is equating, there's 3 things, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, and so this is a 201 class. That is the impurities of heart are being cleansed. The forgetfulness of who we really are is being cleansed. The material cessation, this other phrase is nirvana, if you remember from yesterday. The Buddhist phrase of nirvana is material cessation. Consistently, you can look up for yourself. Prabhupada speaks of this nirvana and exactly and consistently in that language, material cessation. So, samadhi is on the other side of material cessation, or the sun is on the other side of darkness. The name of Krishna is on the other side of nirvana. But it takes a steady mind, which takes some cleansing, some Chaita Darpana Marjanam activity. Then another reference indicating something similar or identical is Patanjali. No, probably most of the devotees here know Patanjali. Patanjali Muni wrote the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and it's a classic text. I was very surprised that even in China, some of the teachers that teach yoga in China have gone to study yoga in India, and then they come back and teach it in China. And there's this couple places, a big poster, Patanjali Muni, and they profess that they're teaching yoga according to what Patanjali. In other words, he's the authority for the yoga system, and a reference, not the only reference in his Yoga Sutras. He writes about something that many people who study Patanjali from Patanjali Yoga or Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, they don't understand this any more than they don't understand it's right in Bhagavad Gita. So that the Chitti Shakti, it's our normal language is Chit Shakti, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Chitti Shakti is something that those who are impersonalists, they're allergic to. They have a problem with saying that there's Shakti, because then that means there's a Shakti and there's Shaktiman, that means there's two, and you can't have two if you're a monist. So they don't like it. You'll dismiss it or explain it away or something or other. But Patanjali Muni is acknowledging by this Chitti Shakti or transcendental potency, the soul on the other side of material cessation can experience their own natural activity through that and be conscious of it, themselves, the Supreme, and the spiritual realm in which the Supreme resides. Now what am I doing here? I'm trying to do the art of mantra meditation, the part 2 of what we did yesterday. And so one of the things, I'm going to say 3 things. One of the things that's helpful in the art of mantra meditation is this. It's the same thing in a different way. Abhinatvam nama namino. Did I discuss this yesterday? Abhinatvam nama namino during the class? Yes? Okay. You don't remember?
No, I was not in Sunday school.
Oh.
Sunday school.
Okay, Sunday school. So yes, some are saying yes, I did. For those that weren't with us on Sunday, there's a section of, I now remember saying it, there's a section of Padma Purana that focuses on the name. And for us, Srimad Bhagavatam is the principal evidence, pramana. For Sri Vaishnavas, Padma Purana and Vishnu Purana are their principal scriptural texts of evidence. Interesting. There's a really huge section in Padma Purana called Bhagavat Mahatmya that's just glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. Very interesting. So Sri Vaishnavas who study Padma Purana, they have some appreciation for Bhagavat Purana because it's glorified by a long section of Padma Purana. There's a long section also, shorter but long, on the name, glories of the name. So for Sri Vaishnavas, the name is also very important. The name of Narayana is especially important for them. But the names of the Supreme Lord, they take it, there's avatars, and those avatars are also worshipable because that's Narayana's expansions, that's how they take it. So, in that section glorifying the name, there's a very important verse, Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Taking that verse from Padma Purana, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote one of his 100 books called Nama Chintamani. And Chintamani means touchstone. Touchstone. Touchstone is conscious. Chit. So like it's the same word is used in Brahma Samhita where the spiritual world, Goloka, is made of Chintamani. Here, it's different materials. Very common these days is, we call it, where the wall is made of little pieces of stone. What do you call that?
Marble.
Mosaic.
Huh? No, it's not that, no. Anyway. They put up the frame of the wall and they put this stuff on the wall and it's called something. Huh? Whatever it is. Okay, so wood, plaster, cement, metal, houses and dwellings are made of that stuff. Sheetrock, that's what I'm thinking of. You've heard of that one? Men have heard of sheetrock. Some ladies have heard of sheetrock. So it's made of material elements that are not conscious. But in the spiritual world, everything is made of Chintamani. Everything is conscious. Everything is conscious. Now, what's that like? Well, we won't know till we get there, but everything is conscious. The place that you sit on is conscious. The trees are conscious. Not just there's a soul with it. Anyway, everything is conscious. And the name is Chintamani. It awakens the consciousness of the soul because it's of the same nature of the soul which is conscious. Okay, so here's a table. The table's made of wood. And inside the wood, there's fire. But it's stored. If you want the fire to come out, put something that's fiery next to the wood the fire is stored, and the fire that's stored comes out. We're not going to do that, but... Similarly, the soul is conscious, but it's covered. And by contact with Nama Chintamani, the consciousness of the soul becomes awakened. The spiritual consciousness, the full natural consciousness of the soul becomes awakened. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Chaitanya. Conscious. Chaitanya. Rasa Vigraha, the form of rasa. Purna Shuddho, Nitya Mukto. Eternally pure. Nitya Mukto, eternally liberated. Then the last line. Abhina Tvam Nama Namino. Abhina Tvam Nama Namino is, the name is Krishna. So we're not conscious, our consciousness is covered. So when we're chanting in that dawn stage, or the clearing stage, or the abhas stage, namabhas, we're not seeing Krishna. There's light, we're feeling something from the chanting that we're doing. But the 201 stage, or the art of mindful mantra meditation, is to meditate on the fact that the name is Krishna. That's the sun that's rising. And eventually, through Chaita Darpana Marjanam, through the cleansing, if we're attentive, if we're mindful, if we're bringing our attention to Krishna, acknowledging, at least little by little, growingly, acknowledging the name is Krishna, we're with Krishna. So part of the art of mindful mantra meditation is, the name is Krishna, and Krishna and the name are the same. We're with Krishna, or Krishna is kindly coming with us. That's one of the statements in Shikshastika also. Krishna is very kind. He has made himself available through so many different names. Krishna, Govinda, etc. He's there. He's available to us. We're unqualified. We're in this condition of darkness. he doesn't mind. I mean, that doesn't prevent him from being present when we call his name, because we're covered. So part of it's the first item. The first point of the art of mindful chanting is the name and the person of the saint. And that meditation on the sound of Krishna's name carries us to Krishna, or Krishna consciousness, or this stage that's beyond material cessation. The stage that's beyond the dawn of the morning sun till the sun appears. You with me? Then to emphasize this, just as Patanjali Muni is quoted twice, I'll read it the third time. Purushartha Shunyanam. So, it's of the four, Dharma, Artha, Kama, the fourth is this material cessation. Punyashartha Shunyanam, beyond the liberation, that's the fourth, the material cessation item. Punyashartha Shunyanam, Gunanam Prati Prasavaha, Kaivalya, Swarupa Pratishta. What's he saying? In that state that beyond material cessation, there's Swarup. You become situated in your Swarup, your spiritual form. And Chitti Shakti, you experience the Chit Shakti, the potency of consciousness of the Supreme, through that contact with the Supreme. That's yoga. It's beyond material cessation. It's beyond the dawn of the morning sun. It's the mature stage, but this is, mantra meditation 201. Then that's defining the goal. We're over here, the goal is way over there, but we're taking the process with faith, because that's essential. Enough faith even that you just continue chanting, even if it's not such good quality. There's faith even to continue chanting. But to nourish that faith is take knowledge and act in that knowledge. We were discussing this yesterday also. When you act in knowledge, something happens. You get a realization. A really simple one, I like this one, is if you're very fortunate to find a good doctor, let's say a good Ayurvedic doctor, 1, 2, 3, they can tell what's going on from your pulse. I'll just give one example. There's one devotee went to an Ayurvedic doctor in Delhi, and the Ayurvedic doctor took their pulse and said, "You're watching too much television." And they said, "This guy's a quack, I never watch television." But then they thought about it some more. It was actually the next day. I'm not usually doing this, but I've been doing transcribing for the VIHE, and I'm in front of a computer all day long, and you can feel that in my pulse, in front of the screen of the computer all day long. I'm not watching television, but I'm watching a screen. Or the first time I was searching for a good Ayurvedic doctor. So I got some recommendations, met 3 of them. One of them I was particularly interested in for a variety of reasons, without details. And his first pulse reading says, "Do you have a pain in your right knee?" I said, "No." He said, "You will." And sure enough, I did. A meniscus tear in my right knee, and it caused a problem. Took a while, but he could tell that just from this. So, then, okay, so here's the diet you should follow and the medicine you should take. Now, if it's a good physician that has good diagnosis and good medicine, what do? You have to apply it. You can't say, oh, you're a good doctor, nice, see you later. You have to follow the diet and take the medicine. And you have to do it over some time. And if it's a person that has knowledge and good medicine, you experience something. What does that do? That experience gives you some faith in the physician and the medicine and the treatment of the physician. So you go back next time, you know where to go, or to refer other people to, because that's a good source. It's hard to find such a person, good physician. But you get the idea. Act in knowledge, and it gives some realization and increases faith. Very simple principle. So this mantra meditation 201 is we experience something as from the beginning stages of chanting, something's happening. That's, I have full confidence when I visit universities, because I visited some number, 15, 16 universities in this past while. And lots of people are introduced to chanting. Some of them will chant, and I guarantee that those that do, I said, I promise you, you'll feel something. Like one of them was a Buddhist. And I said, do you feel something when you're a vegetarian now? Yes. Were you a vegetarian before? No. And did you feel something when you became a vegetarian? He said, yes. So similarly, you're going to feel something when you begin chanting, I guarantee it. You just have to do it. You have to apply. That's the dawning, the dawn part of being introduced to Mahamantra. And then there's what we need to do to go to the 201 stage. We also have to apply something. Like, don't just pick up your beads and do Namabas. You have to strive for the goal, the Shuddhanam stage. We have to know what it is and how to strive for it. I hope you follow what I'm indicating here. It's not going to fall from the sky. It's not a mechanical process. That Mahamantra isn't a vending machine. It's a devotional means to get, through sound vibration, to get to Krishna's association. So chant mindfully, mindful of the fact that the name and Krishna are the same. And that's a very powerful deterrent for offenses, the chief of which is inattentiveness. Real simple example. Supposing you invite some guest to your home, a family to your home for dinner, and they come at the appointed time, and you're on the phone, and you're busy having a chat with somebody, and you're just like ignoring them or being inattentive to them. That's impolite. You don't do that. You may say, "Excuse me, my guest just arrived. I'm going to have to get back to you. Is that okay?" And because you get the idea. Now, we're calling Krishna, and Krishna's come, not coming. He comes immediately, and we're inattentive. That's not nice. But we do it. So we have to be attentive. And one of the ways to be attentive is to recognize he's a person. And his name and he are non-different. We're calling his name and he's there, and we need to be attentive. If we're not prepared to be attentive, then don't invite a guest to your home. It's rude. But, we like guests, and so invite guests and serve them nicely. That's one of the duties of a householder. Yes. One of the basic instructions for household life, along with, I mentioned the other day, charity, but then also, receiving guests. There's lots of instruction in Scripture about receiving guests. If an uninvited guest, this is a household instruction Prabhupada taught multiple times, an unexpected guest comes to your door, the teaching is, the culture is, you treat them as Narayan, because who knows, they might be. So you treat them in that way, with great respect. It's a standard cultural principle. So if you're going to receive unexpected guests that way, what about the name? And you know it is Krishna. That it might be. So that acknowledgement of the name is the person, abhinatvam nama namino, is a very important step in mindful mantra meditation. Next, number 2 out of 3. I may know that and so many other things. I'm referring to Shikshashtaka 2. Mahaprabhu says, although I know all these things, I don't have any taste. Durdaivam idrishi mahajani, ahajani nana raga. No anurag. No attachment, no taste, no attraction. My chanting is mechanical. I'm doing, but it's mechanical. And the reason that no taste is there, Bhagavatam teaches, is because of offenses. But how to get beyond that abhas stage to the clearing, and you see the rays of the sun, and then you start to see the sun. How do you get to that state, the gradual evolving of the quality of our chanting? And that's this Shikshashtaka 3. Many of you here know that verse, those of you that don't. This is taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it's a teaching of how to get to the stage of the topmost gift that Lord Chaitanya gave, which is the love of the residents of Vrindavan through the chanting of the holy name. Just a little sharing over here on the side. I'll come back. One of the best writers, or if not the best writer in ISKCON today, is Rabindra Swarup Prabhu. Maybe some of you have heard his name. He was a PhD graduate in philosophy in Temple University, I think, in Philadelphia. Not just he has a PhD, he's just an incredibly brilliant person and good writer. He's written many articles for Back to Godhead. Some of you that have taken the Disciple course, you've read that little booklet, Our Founder Acharya. He's the writer of that. Good writing. So he's no longer in GBC because of his age and other circumstances. So he's now relieved of that responsibility so he can write. So I contacted him not so long ago, just before Janmashtami. I was inviting him to take part in a Vyasa Puja gathering. Could he come and speak something about Prabhupada? So that was the purpose of the call, but I took the opportunity to ask him, you've been meditating on writing books when you didn't have the time. Now, what is the book that you're writing? What's the first book that you decided to write? And he takes time. He's very, very slow, but he's really excellent. So he described what he's writing, and it's right on the topic. He's writing a book on perfecting japa by following closely Shikshastakam. He described how he's doing it. He learned Sanskrit a little bit, enough that he knows the meaning of the words. So when he recites the Shikshastaka, it's not just, recitation. It's going into his heart, and it's a map of how to navigate out of material existence into the spiritual realm, into Krishna's association, in the highest stages of love of God. That's what Shikshastaka is. And he's developing that deeply. And he's going to write a book about it. I'm sure it's going to be a brilliant book, and very helpful for those that want to go to mantra meditation 301, 401, and 501 in graduate study and, get honorary degrees. So this Shikshastaka 3 is part of the map, how to go from the Abbas stage, where we know, but there's a big gap between what we know and what we're doing. And it has 4 parts. And I'm not going to elaborate on them, because that's been done many times. But I'll just mention them. Humility, profound humility. Tolerance, like a tree. Meaning, the features of duality that are uncomfortable, the heat of the summer, the cold of the winter, the tree just stands there, pouring of rain, and the snow, and people taking advantage of the tree, breaking off branches, taking fruits, flowers, woodpeckers poking holes in it, and insects crawling all over its body, and people using it just serves. Part of the message of tolerance is to always remain in a mood of service, regardless of the external circumstance. That's what trees do. They serve. They serve birds and insects and animals and squirrels, and they just provide leaves, branches, the trunk of the tree. Their life is just a life of service, without any protest of the circumstances. Kind of like mothers. They just serve. And they like serving. It's happiness to be serving. So, tolerant like a tree, offering all respects to others. I was thinking about this because of one of the conversations I was having with a college student. It was actually an Indian graduate student, real tall fellow, very bright looking features, in other words, from a good family and so forth. And he came, I don't know why he came to our program, because he came up to it, his introductory words were, "I'm a Christian. And I want to know how I can address myself to the chanting of the mantra, because it's not spoken of in the Bible." Now, I don't know why he came to the program and asked that question, but I said it's not at all contradictory to biblical teaching. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Oh. Because I grew up in a Christian family, so I know that one. Hallowed be thy name. You're just doing what the scripture says. You're hallowing God's name. What is the problem? If there's another name you like, fine. Hallow God. In any case, follow the instruction. Hallow God's name. So similarly, what I'm doing just now is, this isn't sectarian. The language is in Sanskrit, but it's principle-based. And so this offering all respect to others is similar to other traditions. I was sharing with somebody something that I learned in college about Sufism. This is a young American girl at Texas A&M. She's like just, like a kid in a candy store learning about spirituality of different types because she grew up in a Christian family, but it was dogmatic and the parents didn't really follow and she couldn't relate to it. So now she's learning spirituality and it's like all new. So in one of the Sufi practices, I shared this with her, is they sit facing one another and their meditation is on the form of God is within the other. They're not meditating on the form of God within themselves, it's the art of respecting another. Interesting. They can't see Super Soul, but with faith, God is within. And they're respecting another entity, and if the other entity is to be respected, then what entity doesn't have God within? Other living entities are to be respected. Offering all respect to others. And that's one of the Christian teachings. Love thy neighbor as thyself. The first one is love God with all your heart and mind and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Respecting all living entities. It's universal teaching. Now how do you do that when when people's behavior is bad? How do you respect Donald Trump? Well, his behavior is awful. But, inside there's a soul. And that poor soul must be very troubled to behave the way he behaves. Anyway, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. And he's the leader? What an embarrassment. So, respect to others, and when this is one of the most difficult ones, is not only offering respect to others on the platform of the soul, especially, that's what makes the difference. Having no expectation of anything in return. Commonly, we're fruitive. We do something because we want something. We expect something back. When you don't get something back, there's some disappointment. For some people, there's a neediness. I got to get some recognition. And if I don't get recognition, I get upset. Or I cry or something. Get angry. I feel something. I'm not being respected. I'm doing and can't get no respect. So, the transcendental, how to go beyond the Abbas stage of chanting into the Shuddha stage of chanting, these four are principles. It helps us go beyond the neutrality stage. Yes? That's right. I'm trying to take our scriptural teachings and embellish or expand. The art of mindful mantra meditation. Adopting, these are qualities. Humility, tolerance, expressing your appreciation for others, being in the mood of service to others, honoring others, being respectful to others, with no expectation in return. Similar to what's being described here, it's unconditional. You can, when this beyond material contamination state is reached, you can be in any condition, and you're undisturbed. Exactly what Prabhupada writes. A truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. So this is mindfulness in mantra meditation. You can be in any circumstance. You may take some steps, you may take some actions to address a situation. It's cold, you put a jacket on. You may do something in a practical sense, but you don't become disturbed. And how do you get there? These 4 items are very helpful. And then the last one, and I'm done for this evening. Practically speaking, this mindfulness in mantra meditation is one mantra at a time. I received a letter just this afternoon from somebody that was sharing the first 5-6 rounds they chant every day. They're generally pretty good. They're very focused. And then something happens. A little bell rings and they start to get unfocused. And then because they're unfocused, they get sleepy. And because they get sleepy, they get up and walk around so that they won't fall asleep. And then as they walk around, they're distracted. Now, Prabhupada would sometimes chant japa sitting, and sometimes Prabhupada would chant japa walking, even in his own quarters. And, pacing up and down, there's footage of photographs of Prabhupada chanting japa in his quarters in Los Angeles. Pacing up and down, slowly. So it's okay to move and chant, so I wrote back to this devotee just today and suggested a few things, and one of them was the 9 keys. Maybe you remember that from Borijan's japa book. The first one is one mantra at a time. So I sent him that chart, a little introduction and then a chart. One mantra at a time. Be present, because now again, Krishna and his name are not different. Okay, I get it, but I'm still distracted. Then these 4 things. Then something that will also help in the art of mindful mantra meditation is meditate on the mantra that you're currently chanting. And if you practice that, you would cultivate that of being present with the name, because Krishna and his name are not different. One mantra at a time. And just keep one mantra at a time. Prabhupada told one devotee, his disciple, when you chant your 16 rounds every morning, you have 25,000 opportunities each day for spiritual perfection. Because if you just chant one name with full attention, all perfection is there. Just one name out of 25,000. So there was some question about why 16 and 25,000, roughly 16 rounds, and 4 times that, 64 rounds is 1 lakh. And Haridas Thakur chanted every day 3 lakhs. That's a lot of chanting. Every day. 3 times 64 rounds in 1 day, every day. Not human. It's superhuman. Bhaktisiddhanta did the same thing for 8-9 years. Superhuman. I can't chant that fast, what to speak of 3 times 64. I'm disqualified. So anyway, for continuous chanting, then there must be some taste. Otherwise you can't. And to get that taste, that's what Mahaprabhu was indicating. These 4 things help get a taste, and then you're absorbed, you're present with the mantra that you're chanting now. And even you can break it down further. The Hare Krishna part and then the Hare Rama part. Or you break it down, just Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. You have to chant so slowly. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. So just be present with that sound vibration. And you cultivate that. It helps to bring the mind to a state of mindfulness. 1 mantra at a time. Devotees that have, when we have our japa retreats and they share, when the mindful chanting, that they're feeling strongly connected with the mantra, it just flows. So some effort, perhaps initially, but then when the mindfulness is there, it just flows. A part of the difficulty when it just flows is that the mind can then get distracted and start to drift. That's a problem. Or start to focus on the experience that you're having rather than the mantra. And then something happens, everything dissipates. So 1 mantra at a time. It's building quality chanting 1 mantra at a time, 1 mantra at a time, 1 mantra at a time. And it's effective, it's powerful. It's part of mindfulness in mantra meditation. Okay, so that's it. That's the follow-up of yesterday's class on a broader sense of mind your mind, the art of mindfulness. Yeah.
I want to say that I tried this exercise, Guru Maharaj.
Which one?
In trying to apply the 9 keys mentioned in the Japa book.
Yeah.
Like after some time I couldn't keep up and I started staying away. I lost my question.
Okay, we'll come back. Sumala, you have something? Did you have your hand up? No, but you have something anyway. Okay, go ahead.
Haridas, so much well known for the names, like his
Yes,
children.
yes.
While I was reading the Harinam Chintamani, I was hearing the discussion between Haridas Thakur and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he's talking about the how the avatars and how the creation,
Yes.
and how the name. I was wondering how could, he's, I don't know, as much as I know, he's not that very well educated or creative.
You're not a scholarly person.
Yeah, so how did he contact?
Well, from hearing. From hearing. He wasn't. To say that he was illiterate doesn't mean he couldn't read or write. It meant he wasn't it wasn't a literary type of person. Certainly heard, and he had realization of whatever it is that he heard. Okay? Someone else had their hand up?
I missed the point. That Nama Chintamani Krishna, where does it occur? This
Where?
Where does it
What is Padma Purana?
occur?
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, when I'm learning all these techniques to improve the chanting,
Yeah.
but I have a hard time to sticking with it.
Yeah.
I start something, but in a couple of days it goes back to that. And it kind of reflects to all of my activities. Hard time sticking.
Welcome to the club. Therefore, abhyasa. You know the meaning. Practice. It's a cultivation. The contamination that's covering the soul is very thick. But take cultivation. And it's subtle, and therefore it's, because of its subtleness, it's elusive to a degree. And it's not fruitive, so it just doesn't have the same buzz as something that's fruitive. It has a deeper dimension to it, and so it's hard to measure that deeper and be attracted to the. So it takes cultivation. An essential element is faith, and something like I said. Faith is increased by acting in knowledge. And when you act in knowledge, you get a realization. Because if it's knowledge, some realization comes, and that increases faith. So our faith is weak. Our attraction for the temporary is very strong. So we easily get distracted. So then when you see that you're distracted, you press the reset button. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, bring it back under the control of the reset button. Just so, however many times. If monkeys can be trained, our mind can be trained. But it takes some patience and some diligence to train a monkey. But trainable. It's possible. Krishna says. Arjuna says, very difficult. Krishna says, yes. But it's possible. And constant practice, that's the abhyasa, and detachment. This detachment is material cessation. Here's a nice example. Mantra chanting is like firing an arrow. The arrow is the mantra, and the bow is attentiveness, and the target is Krishna, the name and the person. But then you have to draw the bow, and then you have to let go. That let go part is the material attachment part, the affinity for the temporary part. You have to let go. Otherwise, you're not going to hit the target. We're not just attracted to, we're addicted to the temporary. It's what our life is made up of. Pious people as well, not only the impious people. We like the happiness of the temporary, and the fruits that come from being a good person, the fruits of piety. We like to be the enjoyer of those things. That's where our attention just goes. So we're getting some spiritual nourishments, and we stay with it for a short while, but this affinity for the temporary. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The sine curve. Hit the reset button. Go back to the hearing and chanting part as qualitatively as you can, that nourishes the effort to do chanting. And then you feel invigorated again for a few days. And anishtita bhakti, there's a Sanskrit term for it. It's quite normal. Don't feel bad. That's why I said, welcome to the club. Quite normal. It's unsteady bhakti. But how does unsteady become steady? By constant practice and detachment. And detachment means, Prabhupada explains, attachment to Krishna. Attachment to Krishna grows. It's something we need to cultivate. So, curiosity. Besides somebody said, Krishna is the goal, I want to know Krishna. On a deeper level than just saying it back. Or being a religious person that says, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. The vending machine program. I want to go to the bhakti program. We don't even know exactly what that means. But to go beyond the mechanical. It's just, part of it is the desire for that connection, that relationship. And it's real. It's real as when the sun rises in the morning, you can see things that you couldn't see during the night. It's real. Similarly, as we go on with the chanting process, we can understand and experience and feel things that we couldn't before. Just wasn't accessible to us. We're too dull. So stay with the process. Reset, abhyasa, and the attachment to the temporary, at least gradually let it go. We still do things with the temporary. The attachment is the part that you have to let go. Be the enjoyer of the temporary, specifically. Yes. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I have a small question. Recently when I visited India, so one of my relatives, he asked me a question when we are in Krishna consciousness, why we are avoiding eating some of the vegetables, which creates mode of passion. So why you are avoiding this, and where it was written in the Bhagavad Gita that we have to avoid those kind of vegetables, and if that vegetables are in mode of passion, so that if it's that a mode of passion, then it needs for survival. If that things are mode of passion, then we need it for survival also. So why is it like that? And those who are eating that vegetables also, they are also in mode, they are in compassionate thing. So why you are avoiding all those things?
I would answer the question depending upon the person and the openness of the person, because sometimes persons aren't at all open. You answer this one, and they'll bring up that one. You answer that one, they'll bring up another one, and they'll go back to the first one. In other words, they're not interested in hearing. Depends on the person, how I would respond. If the person really wants to know, then it's easy. If the person just wants to argue or defend their position and not move from their position, then it's far more difficult. Because what you just did, which sounds like what some relative is doing, it's like taking 5 balls and saying, here, catch. See, you dropped them. You only caught 1, but you missed the other 4. So, So, my dear relative, do you accept Bhagavad Gita? Yes. Okay. Yadyaracharati shreshas tat tat eve tarorjana. Or there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. We do what the shreshtas do, the great people. And what do our acharyas teach? We follow what our acharyas teach. Now I, your relative, may not know the scriptural answer to all of your questions, but I know what our acharyas teach. And I follow what our acharyas teach with the confidence that they're acharyas. They know proper achar. They teach by their behavior, their conduct. Now, the principle is, Bhagavad Gita principle is, we offer to Krishna foods in the quality of goodness. Now these other foods are not in the quality of goodness. You say, now you just, I'm answering one of the things he just threw at you, or she, whoever. From the message of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's message is not, we need passion foods. That's your idea. You're entitled to your idea. But I like Krishna's idea. We don't need those foods that are passionate, sustain our existence. We need to promote the quality of goodness because goodness helps us enter into transcendence. And the activities of goodness are activities that we can then offer to Krishna, particularly in the food category. So we offer foods in the mode of goodness because that's what Krishna will accept. Well, how do you know Krishna won't accept the other ones? We know through our acharyas. I can't give you the verse and text. It's not in Bhagavad Gita, other than offer foods in the quality of goodness to Krishna. And that he gives the symptoms of those foods are in the quality of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And these other foods are not in goodness, so we don't offer them to Krishna. It's really simple. It's simple for me because I also, as do you, accept Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna says the purpose of all of the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita is to know him, and the way to know him is through devotion. The way to learn devotion is by following the line of disciplic succession. So that's what I'm doing. Now I'll do some homework and find out why our acharyas don't eat those particular ones. Where does it state that in Scripture? I'll do some research for you. But it's, for now, I'm just going to follow our acharyas. Can you point to me other acharyas in these lines of disciplic succession that eat these other things? And I'll give you 1,000 other references that say, no, through, centuries and centuries and centuries. Now you have your idea, and you're entitled to your idea. I like the idea of following our acharyas, because that's what Bhagavad Gita says to do. And we take only those things that we offer to Krishna. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to do. Should I do something else? Would you like me to do something else? I don't know if I'm comfortable doing something else, but would you like me to do something else? I have faith in the taking the teachings and living by them. But it depends on the person. The answer might be, just tolerate me. I'm one of those relatives. Yeah, I'm a nice person. I just have these quirks about my eating habits, and just tolerate me. I'll be nice in all other. Just don't ask me to eat those other things, please. I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm just put up with me. But it depends on the person. If they really want to know, there's ways to help them know. something else? Did you remember?
God answered.
God answered already, okay. All right. Yes?
Maharaj, in the verse that you were describing, it was referred to Patanjali Rishi, his description of Samadhi.
Yes, that's correct.
And according to Purport, Chit Shakti, the transcendental pleasure,
Yes.
is what is experienced in Samadhi.
Yeah, there's a happiness. And not just a happiness of material cessation, that's a kind of happiness. But in the spiritual realm, the spiritual experience of spiritual potency, that happiness.
So in the state of Samadhi, they experience the spiritual happiness.
Yes. Beyond the material cessation kind of happiness. I mean, Prabhupada describes, you bang your head against the wall and it hurts. You bang your head, you stop banging your head against the wall. Brahman. Yeah, nirvana. So that's a definition by negation, but it's not the positive happiness. And this Chitti Shakti is indicating.
So in the Samadhi state that is described, are they meditating on the Supreme Personality of God?
It doesn't clarify. I don't know Patanjali Sutras enough to say. Does it? From a distance, my understanding is that Patanjali Sutras, it may be those who study it are impersonalists. It may not be that the Patanjali Yoga Sutras is an impersonal text, any more than Bhagavad Gita is an impersonal text, but impersonalists, they like Bhagavad Gita. They just explain it in a very twisted way and come out with... It's not to Krishna that you surrender, it's the unborn, unmanifest within Krishna that you surrender, and so forth. Come up with something impersonal from Bhagavad Gita, it's pretty amazing. So I don't know about Patanjali Muni and was he meditating on the form of Krishna? I don't know.
But the purport talks about Samadhi.
Yes, the verse.
Right. And so that reference to Samadhi that's being talked about by Srila Prabhupada, is that referring to spiritual happiness
Yes.
arising out of devotion to Supreme Personality of God?
It's speaking more about the Paramatma feature. That's my understanding, at least. Self with a capital S is the Paramatma feature. But that leads to, if it continues properly, it leads to devotional service. Like Sankhya. Kapila isn't teaching Paramatma realization, he's teaching devotional service. But meditation upon the Supreme within, that leads to devotional service.
Sorry, follow-up question. But the stage of Samadhi being discussed here, in the purport it says that they are already experiencing transcendental happiness. Whereas
Yeah, sure.
bhakti, the process of bhakti comes later, is what you're telling me.
Be careful. I've been giving the description of the darkness and then the dawn in the morning and the rising of the sun. So it's progressive. Let's go to Canto 2. There's 3 references. There's this Bhagavad Gita section. There's Kapila's teachings, but he's teaching meditation on Paramatma, but yes, there's a happiness, and it leads to a complete happiness. It's incomplete, then complete. Similarly, Canto 2, first step in God realization, then meditation upon the Lord in the heart, and then pure devotional service. 1, 2, 3. If you get on the train and you know the destination, you get to the destination, although you may pass through some stops on the way. There are stages of evolving of consciousness that may be more focused on the localized feature, but that's a spiritual happiness compared to material, chasing after the temporary. It's a spiritual happiness. That's what enables them to stay in a state of trance, of meditation on Super Soul. Spiritual happiness. But it's incomplete. And the complete form is devotional service. Okay? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki. This is left over?
Yeah, just mix them.
Oh. Okay, now we have a choice. Which one do you want? Here's a boy that knows what he wants. Here come the other boys. There's a choice of 3. Which one do you want? Okay, take it away. Did you wake up yet? Brown one? Want Surfy? I'll give you one of each. How's that?
Yeah.
I'll give you one. Hang on. I'm going to give you one of each. Put your hand up. You want this one?
Yes.
Yes? That's small.
Yes.
Okay. Whoops. I've got to give you the white one. Did you decide what you want yet? You still sleeping? Oh. You take that one.